You're listening to The Combine with former sports TV broadcaster Damon Darrensburg, sports gurus Terrence Davis and Will Bryant, and former NFL defensive tackle Marlon Big Bay Favorite. The Combine is a BAMM network production.
Welcome everyone to The Combine. I'm your host, Will Bryant. We're in BAMM Communications, part of the TalkThatNOLA.com network, with my guy Terrence Davis. Coach, how we doing tonight?
Doing well.
Good. Been away for a couple of weeks, but we're back and better than ever. We're a little short-handed, but we got to get right into it. Your Saints, impressive. Teddy Bridgewater, impressive. But the question I have for you, Coach T, was it necessary for Drew to come back and play this week?
I don't think it was necessary, but what I do like about Drew is Drew's a competitor. Drew, you see your team out there, they're battling week in and week out, and you know that, okay, you're back, you're ready, you can go, you want to be out there. Had it been I, as the coach, I probably would have sat him through the bye week, but I understand this from Drew's perspective, and we saw that he was ready. He got out there, he's throwing the ball, he's gripping the ball, so I have no problem with it.
He definitely was ready, throwing for almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, very, very impressive. Looked like the old Drew. And it was a part of me that said the same thing as you. It's like, why is this guy rushing to get back out there? The team really doesn't need him right now. Won't need him against Arizona. Can get through that one. But the competitor, the dog in him, to where he's like, as a guy, and I listen to a lot of the pundits around the country all saying, hey man, that's somebody out there that's going 5-0. It's good for the team and all, but that's my job.
Yeah.
I'm expected to get out there and play, and I want to get back out there and play. So kudos to him for doing so. What's your overall assessment of the game as a whole for the Saints?
Overall assessment, defense. The defense is extremely impressive. I've always been one to believe that defense wins championships. Offense sells seats. So we are a team that has sound defense with an impressive offense. So I look for the Saints to make a run this year.
Well, I'm going to debate you on that later on, because just on the offense-defense component of it, because I believe offense, you got to score points to win.
Definitely.
Nobody's winning the game 0-0, so I'm just saying, I get your defensive component.
But defense can score as well. I think
absolutely.
We've seen that with some teams this year.
But not your Saints team yet. Super Bowl run, yes, but not this year's team. But no, that's fine. We'll get back to that. So Latavius Murray comes out, has a great game, 21 carries, a buck and some change, caught 9 balls for almost 60 yards. Very impressive in spelling for Alvin Kamara. So it was a full team effort to where you saw something in him that you hadn't seen yet. What was your assessment of him?
I think he's a workhorse. I think he's one of those people who needs to touch the ball, needs to touch the ball in various ways. He needs to be able to run between the tackles. He needs to be able to drop lower the shoulder. Needs to be able to catch it and so forth. So I think the same way Drew going down was a blessing in disguise for Teddy Bridgewater, I think Alvin Kamara going down has been the same blessing for Murray.
So Kamara with the ankle sprain, that's nothing you can play with. Especially those high ankle sprains, those things can take a few days, few weeks to get better. Murray comes in, balls out. He did some things that we didn't expect that he could do. The 9 catches blew me away. Michael Thomas again, 11 catches for whatever reason. I don't know how he's still open all the time, but that's another story for another day. Give me your thoughts on the number 1 overall pick, Kyler Murray. Came in with a lot of hype, but also came in with a lot of detractors thinking at 5'9", could he play on this level? He looks extremely small out there. Now, again, he's been small his whole life, so the guy has been successful his whole life, so I'm not going to really hang that against him, but it was one of those deals where it was like, it was a little, you could really see out there, he looked a little shook just from the opening bell.
Well, I think as we see, it's hard to play quarterback in the NFL. So you're talking about somebody who literally only played 1 season as a starting quarterback in college, and now because really he wasn't even planning on being in the NFL. He was really supposed to be in Major League Baseball, and so now he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's undersized. And so what has to happen, I think the coaches have to continue to be, creative and putting him in spaces, allow him to roll out, allow him to get where he can get sight lines. If he stands in the pocket, Well, guess what? With those 6'5" and 6'6" defensive linemen and defensive
And
ends
that's the
coming
thing
at
he
you,
said.
you
He
can't see
mentioned-
it.
he
So
mentioned windows.
you have to allow him to be able to move so he can get sight lines, so he can see downfield and see his receiver.
And that's what he mentioned as well. He says, look, and his whole thing, I've been short my whole life, but I've never had to throw over guys.
Yeah.
I find my windows, and I'm throwing through lanes or whatever. Those lanes were closed. Saints defense was coming and coming often, and Cam was coming after him. I mean, he was literally under pressure the entire night. Yeah. And it was just one of those deals that made you think about, because he's got some mobility. He can escape a little bit, but he couldn't. He couldn't outrun.
Mm-hmm.
Saints had a great game plan. Keep him bottled up inside the pocket, inside the tackles, and he can't really be as effective. So that was one thing I noticed I took away from it. Specifically, I wanted to see the kid play as a number one overall pick. But around the league, from Kyler Murray, switching gears real quick to Lamar Jackson. Lamar's been taking the league by storm. He's really, really been effective. This Sunday night, prime time, he gets his biggest test to date, where he has to face Bill Belichick's New England Patriots. They're undefeated. The Ravens are hot. Belichick's scheme, you love defense, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that as it relates to what you expect to see Sunday.
Well, I'll tell you, with Lamar, you really have to have two game plans when you deal with Lamar, because you have your initial game plans to stop the actual play, and then you have to have the game plan to stop Lamar after the play breaks down.
Yep.
And so that's what you see happens. And so what it does, it starts to make DBs and linebackers look apprehensive. So now I can't charge forward and and go all out, because now I'm afraid that, okay, if I come full speed ahead, or if I go in coverage, then I leave a window. So really what Lamar brings to the game, that he makes defensive linemen, linebackers, and DBs play apprehensive.
Okay.
And when you play apprehensive, hey, that leaves windows of opportunity.
Okay. One thing we know about Belichick defenses, apprehension is probably not in his vocabulary. And the other thing we know about him, I love this about him, and that's why I don't understand how more people don't do it, but that's another story. And the best analogy I heard, he makes you play left-handed. He'll take away what it is you do best and make you have to do something else to beat him. And if you do, tip your hat. We'll keep it moving. But mobile quarterbacks have given him issues in the past. And that goes back to Colin Kaepernick gave him problems. Russell Wilson gave him problems. Should have won the Super Bowl. So he's always struggled with that. Listening to his press conferences this week, he talked about, this is going to be a headache, man. It's going to be the real deal. But you know he's got something up his sleeve. As a defensive guy, you know he'll put 8, 9, whatever he has to do in the box and say, Lamar, I dare you to beat me throwing the football. Can he beat them throwing the football?
I think he's going to get his shots.
He's
going to get his shots
yes.
because, once again, I think he utilizes his run to set up the pass, and so I think it's going to be a good game.
It should be great. I can't wait to see it.
Belichick, I think when you talk about defense-wise, one of the greatest defensive minds to exist. But as you know, when you can play against the talent of Lamar, man, hey, you gotta bring it.
Folks in New England think this is his best defensive unit he's had. That's saying a lot.
And I think we're going to find out this week.
We're going to find out. Outside of Stephon Gilmore, there's no real big name on that defense, but they believe that's their best unit they've ever put together. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, going back a little bit, because Lamar, and remember his last college game, I think it was against LSU in the bowl game, or in that year, the year he won the Heisman. That was the year he played LSU in the bowl game. LSU bottled him up pretty good, took care of him. So making me segue now to LSU, go out against Auburn. Not their best performance. 23-20 game. It was a little sloppy track. Got the W. Surprisingly, the next day the rankings come out and they jump Alabama to number 1. I think that was done as a complete ploy, just so Nick Saban has something to hang up on the wall and say, you see what just happened, guys? It's all he needs is more motivation, right? So now he's got that to dangle a carrot in front of his boys and say, look, they thought they're better than us. They just jumped us. Now they're number 1. And they won by 3 points against Auburn at home. And Auburn could not move the football. And you only beat them by 3, and you leapfrog out. I'm just saying, I think there's some little gamesmanship going on right there to where Nick Saban's going to use that and beat them. They got the 2 weeks to prepare. Give me your synopsis on what you expect to happen.
Well, I think Nick is definitely going to try to use it as motivation. But what I think, from the sports writers and the folks who get to vote is that they saw a team that, like you said, didn't come out and play their best game, yet still came out on top. Still fought until the end. Still, when they got down, bowed their neck and still kept plugging ahead. They didn't deter from the game plan. They kept running their offense. They kept throwing the ball. They kept mixing it in and out. And so I think what they saw was that, okay, even when this team is tested against a good SEC defense, because they played against a good SEC defense.
Very good.
And I would say this, Auburn probably, arguably between Auburn and Florida, are the two best defenses maybe in the country.
I would not argue that.
I'll throw maybe Ohio State in
I
that
won't
mix.
argue that.
So
Absolutely.
in the country, so still to come out on top.
So
Against
going into
after
the
getting
Florida
punched in the
game.
mouth in the first half
Exactly.
by the best defense of the
All right.
country, and yet still come on top.
So, going into the Florida game, we were having the same conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat Florida by 2 touchdowns. And they, however you want to look at it, that's 2 touchdowns. You beat them by 14 points. You did what Vegas said you'd do. You didn't do that against Auburn. But again, there's some Sunday guys, a lot of Sunday guys playing for Auburn with a great scheme.
There's some
as well.
monsters on that defense.
Monsters. Burrow put up decent numbers, not as typical, and I'm saying he threw for 300 and something, but it wasn't the typical video game numbers he's been putting up.
Now, let's think about this. They were at the goal line twice.
Yes.
And were stopped.
Yes.
So if you add a field goal there or a touchdown there, then we're looking at that as a totally different type of number. So he was driving.
Yes.
And then they were getting down there, and then those defensive linemen say, you know what, hey, we are the best, and we stopped them. So that game really could have had a totally different look if it wasn't for some major stops at the goal line.
Okay, so now let's switch gears to Tuscaloosa. So Tua Tagovailoa has a sprained ankle, another high ankle sprain that we're talking about. Nick says a game time decision. He's gonna play. He's gonna play.
Yeah.
So how do you anticipate? Again, it's one of those deals. You give a guy 2 weeks to prepare. You give that guy 2 weeks to prepare. He's basically unbeatable. This will be great for Coach O because we want to see how he does with the same 2 weeks prepared with the same talent, which they think they have the same talent.
Yeah.
Vegas has them as a 6.5 point underdog, but again, they believe talent on talent with this offense.
Yeah.
We can compete with this thing. How do you feel about that?
And I firmly believe talent on talent that LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, maybe Georgia. When you talk about talent on talent, LSU I think matches with this team. Our defensive backs, I think as you see, they're starting getting better. They're starting to understand where they're supposed to be. Initially, when it was man to man, they were doing well. We were having some trouble when it was time to play zone, because zone, you have to know when I have to pull off, when I have to let this man go. And it's hard when you, as a DB, when you see a man come in your face and realize, I gotta let him go. And so sometimes a younger defensive back, mindset is, maybe nobody's going to be back there to cover, so I'm going to stay with them, and then kind of. So I've seen improvement.
Right.
I've seen the young guy who's playing, Stingley, who's really is probably going to be a first-team All-American.
He just got named to the Chuck Bednarik watch list.
Yeah. So he's probably
top
be
50, one of the top 50 defensive players.
The crazy part is, could if he keeps playing the way he plays, could win the Thorpe Award.
He really could.
Yeah,
That's scary.
As a freshman.
Yes.
As a freshman.
Absolutely.
So,
that's scary. So that's the matchup I want to see. Alabama has elite receivers. Elite. Jared Judy, elite. So that'll be the fun matchup for me. I'll be watching with Del Pitt and everybody else. Not the big uglies this game. I want to watch the skill guys run around. Yeah. Alabama's going to spread the thing out. Tua, I expect him to play, not Matt Jones. So I expect Tua to be out there slinging it around. Not as mobile because of the ankles, so you got to get after him. LSU's defense hasn't been its typical punch you in the mouth defense. Now I have a theory for you. So offensively, they've changed schemes. Now they're wide open, flying all over the place. Who do you practice against every day? That defense practices against that offense. That's why none of the Big 12 defenses are any good. They're going up against that every day in practice. So you're not the physical unit that you've been in the past. You're a little bit more vanilla than you've been in the past.
So I pose the same question to you. So you think that's the same thing that's starting to happen in Alabama? Because now the Alabama defense
Absolutely.
is starting to wane a little bit.
Absolutely, but this is the first year we've seen that chink in that armor as far as the defense goes. Their defense is always
and maybe
fast.
you think that chink is because now you have this offense that's prolific, that's wide receivers, and quarterbacks going the ball.
It's hurry up, it's
wide
spread.
open.
Yeah, but they also have that infusion of, we'll turn it around and hand it to that guy 7 yards behind us, because Josh Jacobs, they had last year, now with the Raiders. So they still got the elite eye back to do that with. So it's a fair argument to have, but it's one of them, a buddy of mine brought it up to me, and I said, man, that actually makes sense, because Big 12 defense, their offense, they're scoring points. Defense can't stop a nosebleed. Why not? Well, they're going up against that every day.
I'll tell you what's the difference between this Alabama team. This Alabama team, you only know the name of offensive players. Right now, if I pose, name me some defensive players.
So how is that different from the Patriots? That's the same thing.
Name me some defensive players.
Give me a no-name defense that stops people. I'm fine with that.
Well,
but they're not stopping people like they used to.
They aren't stopping people like they used to. So they don't have those studs on defense. They don't have those first rounders like they had in the past.
Not the named first rounders.
The named first rounders.
Right.
You know, now they might be young guys who are going to become first rounders, but right now we're talking about this particular team isn't that dominant Alabama defensive team.
So let's go back. 2011, last time LSU beat them, the 9-6 game, all the field goals, overtime. That was a great game to watch. I don't care if people say I'm no scoring. That was a great game to watch. Then Alabama comes out in the championship game and beats them 21. They don't get past the 50. LSU don't get past the 50. So they basically dominated and said, look, we were the better team then. You beat us. We're the better team now. We're going to show you. You've been punched in the mouth the last 8 years. And I'm talking repeatedly punched in the mouth, not jabs, bolos. How does that affect LSU going into this game when something happens? You get punched in the mouth early. Do you start to think, oh, crap, here we go again? Like, how do you deal with that to where I think it's important for LSU to get out on top early, get some confidence going, because if Alabama comes out and walks on the field and scores, oh, crap, here we go again.
So I think this is where the confidence comes for this LSU. They feel like they're new. This is a new LSU. This is something you've never seen before, because everyone keeps telling them that this is something you've never seen. So I think you go in with the confidence like, this is something Alabama hasn't seen before.
From LSU.
From LSU. So I look for it to be all that it's going to be built up to be. I think it's going to be outstanding game. I think we get our popcorn, and I think we go ahead and get our lounge chairs and get ready for it.
All right, we got a couple of more weeks before that, or a week and a half before that comes into us, but we got Tulane to talk about right now. Last we met, we had the Wave was 4-1 or 5-1, and they were the hottest thing on earth. And now they've had a couple of hiccups since then. Most notably, last week against Navy, going down 41-38, last second field goal as time expired. They still put up 38 points, but came away with the loss. Got Tulsa this week for homecoming. They've at 5-3. You look at the rest of their schedule, and I'm sorry, we're foreshadowing. I'm looking ahead. They should beat Tulsa. 6 wins, you're bowl eligible. The rest of that schedule, you're eyeball to eyeball with everybody. You gotta win one of those, right? I mean, you're evenly matched with everybody. Maybe not SMU, who's ranked in the top 15, but UCF, the rest of those guys, you're eyeball to eyeball with and should be able to beat. You gotta win one of those, right?
Well, one of the struggles of a coach that is coaching a team that's having success that isn't used to success is managing success. Managing that team to keep them focused, to keep doing those things that allowed you to be successful early on. Like I said, I think this Tulane team is still a team that's building. I think because expectations were so high at the beginning of the year, and I think because
you lived up to them.
Yeah, and
5-1 start.
You lived up to them with the 5-1 start. So now, no one is, you're not surprising anybody anymore.
Right.
So now you have to come out every week with the understanding that, okay, folks are coming out and looking at you as you're the favorite. And so now we're coming and looking at you as being the favorite.
All right, we got a World Series break. I got the World Series on right here. So the Astros just went up. Gary L with a bomb. So it's 1-0 in the bottom of the second for the Astros. So we're covering everything right now. But back to the Tulane situation. So again, you're right. Managing success, handling the expectations. All the recruits are going to be in this week. This is a big deal for them as well, recruiting. They've put together a great recruiting class. Homecoming, it'll probably be their biggest crowd. It is every year. The homecoming crowd is always a big deal for them. So they've got all of that stuff going. They have to come out and be impressive this week.
They have to come out, be impressive from start to finish.
From start to finish.
And
offensively has not been a problem. They've been able to score on just about everybody. Being able to stop anybody has been their issue. So, okay. So basically for that one, I'm looking at it. I'm excited about it. We've already looked at the bowl game potential for them to where they can go somewhere bigger than the Cure Bowl or what they've done in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out this week and perform. Pelicans. That's something we're in regular season now. We started the real deal, and it hasn't gone well.
Well, I won't say it hasn't gone well. I was impressed with the early games. I was impressed what I saw. We're talking about a team of new people who still are learning each other, still are trying to gel. And I think what we're starting to realize that the Zion effect is really a Zion effect inside the paint. Where we're struggling is exactly where Zion would be. We're struggling inside the paint. We're struggling with rebounds. We're struggling with just making stops inside the paint. Then we had Giroux go down, so the injury bug has hit us. But that first game against the Raptors, we were right there in the mix. So I don't think it's time yet to start panicking. I think once we see the full team, then we can kind of start making an assessment. When we see the full team with Zion and Drew and everybody back together, then let's make an assessment of this Pelicans team.
Okay, I just wanted to put that little nugget out there because we're going to take our first time out in a minute. So I just wanted to put that because when we come back, that's what I want to delve back deep into that because I've got some theories on that. We're going to bang on this one right now because I got some theories on that. We're going to take our first time out here on the Combine.
You're listening to The Combine with former sports TV broadcaster Damon Darinsburg, sports gurus Terrence Davis and Will Bryant, and former NFL defensive tackle Marlon Big Bay Favorite. The Combine is a BAMM network production.
We are sitting down talking to Dr. J, the hearing doc, who is helping people in New Orleans hear and speak better. What's your favorite performer this year that you're looking forward to?
Tank and the Bangers, Diana Ross, Big Frida.
How you got your start?
I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Who inspires you?
I am inspired by everyday people.
Don't make permanent decisions because of temporary feelings.
Ultimately, you have to learn to depend on God and yourself.
I had a pound of weed in the trunk. I knew that day I was gonna go to jail. I want them to know that they can't make it, that there is hope.
In New Orleans, art is everywhere, but sometimes that artistry could come at a price.
Just to put a mural up should not cost an artist $500. We think it should be $50.
I just hate that someone would do that and feel they could come in here and do whatever they want.
I went to prison for distribution of cocaine, and that was the past life.
There should not be prison without reentry service, just period.
You're listening to The Combine with former sports TV broadcaster Damon Darinsburg, sports gurus Terrence Davis and Will Bryant, and former NFL defensive tackle Marlon Big Bay Favorite. The Combine is a BAMM network production.
Welcome back to The Combine, BAMM Communications, TalkThatNOLA.com network. When we went to break, we were talking about the Pelicans a little bit and their sluggish start, starting off the season 0-4. And TU was saying how it wasn't a bad 0-4. It was and I'm sorry, but that's a bad 0. If you're 0-4, you're 0-4. There's no moral victories, especially in professional sports. So the Toronto game, you're right, went to overtime, tough loss. come home, lose to Dallas. Again, you're in that game a little bit, tough loss. Houston, you're there, and then they pull away at the end. Golden State, you never were in it.
Yeah.
And that was just, and that was demoralizing simply because it's a Monday night game. Golden State had played the night before in Oklahoma City and got their brains beat in, and then came here and just lit it up. And that's the part of, even without Drew, I get it.
I agree with you on the Golden State game. The Golden State game, I just saw lack of focus.
That's
lack
inexcusable.
Of energy.
That's inexcusable.
I just saw, some people flashing into the paint, no one
cutting,
into
just
the
doing
paint.
whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah. So I would agree with you that so those first 3 games.
I'll give you that.
Okay with.
I'll give you that.
But then what I saw against Golden State, if we continue like that, then I'm gonna be extremely disappointed.
It's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna be it's definitely gonna be a problem.
And again, Zion, what we saw in the preseason, and it goes back to my whole preseason doesn't matter thing, because we didn't lose a game in the preseason, and we can't win a game in the regular season. But he gave us enough flashes to where we're like, this kid's pretty good, and this kid's gonna be a difference maker. He really is. I don't care rookie or not, and I said it from it's the energy, the athleticism, the different things he brings to the table. He's definitely gonna make a difference. The rest of the team, it's a lackluster, and again, effort, energy, like want to, like all of the different, you just pull one out the hat. I'm like, we're getting none of it. Tomorrow night against Denver, again, another primetime game because we thought we'd have Zion. It's an 8:30 game on TNT. Denver's really, really good. And they just lost their first game of the season. They're going to come in here with something, trying to lay one on us as well. Everybody looking at us like we're homecoming right now. So give me your assessment of it. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm hoping what we saw the other night against Golden State was just a simple fact that you saw a team that didn't know how to operate because it was missing its 2 main cogs. You're missing Drew Holiday, you're missing Zion Williams, so you really just didn't kind of figure out how to pull it together. So hopefully with some practice time now, you've had enough time that you're able to regroup, that you're able to come out there now and have an understanding of what you need to do to fill those voids.
So you're touching on my athletic nerve right now when you say that, because again, if I don't have my horses, you know what that means, Big T? I got to dig a little deeper.
You got to dig a little deeper.
I got to play a little harder. Exactly. Let's get after it.
Next man up. But you do understand that sometimes next man up takes a practice session so that we can get that together. I think we kind of saw that with the Saints and with Teddy from that first game when he kind of plugged in there till then we saw that once he was getting those practice reps and understanding how we're going to run this thing without Drew.
I'm gonna give you that. I'm gonna give you that because that was my argument.
So I think this next game against Denver will tell the tale.
Drew should be back, so hopefully he's back for that. But I'm gonna give you that one just based off of that. Now he caught it. We're good there. Nothing happened. So, but my thing is they're learning a new defensive scheme now. So that could be part of it. There's a lot of things we can put out there and say, but still, excuses, you know how we feel about excuses.
Oh, definitely.
The schedule's not going to get any easier. After tomorrow night, they go on the road for a week. So it's just going to be one of those situations where it's not going to get better anytime soon, I don't think, unless they start playing with a lot more energy. So that brings me to my next 2 points as it relates to them. One being Zion, meniscus, 6 to 8 weeks. Doesn't sound like a meniscus to me. Meniscus is a 3-week injury, T.
It's a 3-week injury.
It's not a 6 to 8 week injury.
It's a 3-week injury when you're 150 pounds.
I had a doctor tell me I didn't need my meniscus. I'm just saying.
When you're heavy, it's a different injury. A knee injury is different from a big guy.
With you on knee injuries.
Yeah.
With the meniscus.
Yeah.
I'm just considering the history of the medical staff that we're dealing with right now. We've seen some Delvin Bro.
Yeah.
Jarius Bird. We've seen things.
And so I think even more so, I think you're talking about a medical staff who's going to say we're going to be
extra cautious.
We're not about to, take a franchise.
All right.
They not the league franchise, not just our team franchise.
25 national TV games.
We can't mess this up. So you know what? We're going to err
on the side.
Side, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to sit this out. So normally if we say 6 to 8, we're going to go ahead and say 6 to 8.
It might be 6. I'm crossing my fingers at 6, but you're right. Okay, yeah. I'll let you slide with that one.
Because you got to realize, this is post Kevin Durant injury. And so
hold up.
now, if I put you out there,
you knew that was bad though.
Yeah, but
all athletes, we all knew we all looked at KD and was like, he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
what are y'all doing?
So I think right now, a lot of medical staffs around the league are going to be highly precautious because before I put him back out there, this is a high-profile athlete. He's pretty heavy. Before we put him back out there, you know what? Hey, let's go ahead and take our time.
So how you feel about the big fella? You yourself being a svelte guy, so you understand the big fellas and the mobility and agility and everything that goes into it. He had a knee injury in high school.
Mm-hmm.
He blew the shoe out, of course, in college and had a knee injury in college. Now he's got a knee injury in the league.
And, you know, which was my biggest concern because the court is different from the football field.
Mm-hmm.
The grass absorbs pressure. The court is relentless. That pounding, and so I can see him being one of those athletes that's going to have to get some off games. He's going to have to have some games that you got to see.
Load management,
some load management. Just so that you can get the longevity out of him.
And I guess to my point, to where I get what you're saying, and that probably makes the best sense. But I'm like, you're 19. Come on, man. Play ball. Like, when I was 19 to play all day, I'm not thinking about that. But you're right. At 6'6", 285, so it's probably something to be more cautious of. Okay, my second point as it relates to him, Alvin Gentry. Again, I was part of the organization when we fired Byron Scott after 9 games. Started out 3-6. Not saying the man should be fired. I'm not going to call anybody's job, but we have a show to do. We have opinions to give, and we have to give them. He's not David Griffin's hire. He was already here. He got an extension before. So all of these things took place before Griff got here. I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. There's an elephant out there that everybody's sort of whispering about right now, to where nice guy, great guy, offensive-minded coach, whatever. That's all fine and dandy. But can you see a situation where a potential change could be made?
Yeah, because this is the NBA. The NBA is the league where you can go to the championship and get fired and lose your job. So in the NBA, you are never, ever safe. You can literally go to the championship one year and get fired right after that. So,
you're right. Okay, good. But it was something I wanted to touch on earlier from the NFL, and I want to double back real quick before we get to high school football. Cleveland Browns. Speaking of coaches in the hot seat and in trouble, whatever, Freddie Kitchens and that situation has not gone the way they thought it would go. Baker had an issue today with a reporter with a question. As a communications graduate and a guy who's been in the locker room on both sides of those questions, and it bothers me when guys ask bad questions. I can't stand that. And Baker's point was like, well, he's like, how did you feel about it? Were you happy? I wasn't happy. No, we didn't score, of course. I'm all on his side for that. I don't agree with half the stuff the kid does, but I'm with him on that one. It was a dumb question. He didn't want to deal with it anymore or whatever. That situation, OBJ's making some noise now. Baker's been making noise. Freddie's making noise. The coach is making noise. So everybody's and everybody, when they play you, we trying to bury you. We trying to hang half 100 on you and embarrass you. How's that situation going to play out over there? Because I don't think OBJ is long for there. I don't think that's going to work out long term. What do you see happening right now in Cleveland?
I think Cleveland's situation was expectations were too high.
Really?
I think folks got excited. You saw the talent and you got excited, so you started talking. Mm-hmm. And I think the issue is because they started talking that now the pressure is even greater. Had they gone in there just quietly and humbly said, well, you know what, hey, we're just going to work. But when you go in there talking,
you got to win.
We about to do it.
When you bark, you got to win. Absolutely.
When you bark, like I said, you bark, you got to bite.
You're not exactly.
So you did a lot of barking,
exactly right.
But you haven't bitten anybody.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So now you have pressure. And so that's what the situation is.
Now you have pressure to just make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now you have pressure to literally get a winning season. Now you have pressure to sort of stem those expectations and do something positive out of it. Now the schedule will lighten up for them in a little bit in the next few weeks to where Baker could maybe put up some numbers and things to get better. But what we've seen when they're faced with a quality opponent, they're bowing down, and it's not a good look for them. So I'm just curious to see how that thing plays out based on everything that's going on or whatever. But I forgot to bring that up earlier and wanted to touch on it then. All right, high school football. We've got 2 weeks left in the season before playoffs start. Things have been pretty much going status quo. for what you're telling me. So give me your breakdown.
Cream starting to rise to the top. And that's what happens. The cream rises to the top. We're going to start off in the Catholic League. We have a showdown this week of 2 undefeateds. Archbishop Rumble versus John Curtis.
Is that at Tulane? That game's at Tulane. Yes,
yeah,
that game is at Tulane. Yes.
So that is, that's the cream rising to the top. So you're gonna literally get your champion out of that. So I've been extremely impressed with Archbishop Rumble. First year
defense has been good, right?
So he has the troops ready to go. So that should be a good one. You have Brother Martin who's sitting there at 8-1. So so the Catholic, I'll tell you this, the Class 1, the Division 1 or playoffs are going to be really good. Because Catholic and Baton Rouge is real good.
Okay.
So I can't wait for playoff time to come for the Division 1 playoff, because I see literally it's one of those situations every team makes it. This year, it's outside of maybe the Shaws of the world. Every team's a contender.
Okay.
And so every week you need to strap up. Okay. The most impressive team in the state to me so far, St. James Wildcats.
Wait a minute. You just went to the
St. James Wildcats.
Really?
Are extremely impressive.
I need details.
Coach Robert Valdez has them playing at an elite level. They're playing fast. They're playing strong. And it doesn't matter what class you are, that when you roll into St. James, they are stepping up.
They've always had some athletes. Always.
So they're stepping up to the plate. So right now they are undefeated, and no matter who's stepping into that stadium, they are dealing with them. So I've been extremely impressed with the St. James Wildcats. We have a big one in 4A, 6-1 Bell Chase going against a 6-2 Car team. Okay. So that should be
not your average car team.
Not your average car team. I'll say this: a young car team, but that's extremely talented. It's a car team that Landry Walker had on the ropes last week, and so I like to see how they rebound this week against a tough Bell Chase. And then one of the games I'm really looking forward to for next week, the Reese Bowl. Wayne Reese Sr., the elder spokesman at McDonald 35, looks like he'll be lining up to go against the younger Reese, his son, Wayne Reese Jr. at Kip Booker T. Washington, which could be for the district title. So that's something that's really starting to shape up that I'm going to be extremely interested in.
All right, real quick, give me your John Curtis Rummel prediction.
I'm going to give you John Curtis in a close one.
Okay.
Real close. I'll say John Curtis within less than a touchdown.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to take our second time out here on the Combine. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up with the World Series and a couple of Halloween treats for everybody, so stay tuned.
You're listening to The Combine with former sports TV broadcaster Damon Darinsburg, sports gurus Terrence Davis and Will Bryant, and former NFL defensive tackle Marlon Big Bay Favorite. The Combine is a BAMM network production.
We are sitting down talking to Dr. J, the hearing doc, who is helping people in New Orleans hear and speak better. What's your favorite performer this year that you're looking forward to?
Tank and the Bangers, Diana Ross, Big Frida.
How you got your start?
I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Who inspires you?
I am inspired by everyday people.
Don't make permanent decisions because of temporary feelings.
Ultimately, you have to learn to depend on God and yourself.
I had a pound of weed in the trunk. I knew that day I was going to go to jail. I want them to know that they can't make it, that there is hope.
In New Orleans, art is everywhere, but sometimes that artistry could come at a price.
Just to put a mural up should not cost an artist $500. We think it should be $50.
I just hate that someone would do that and feel they could come in here and do whatever they want.
I went to prison for distribution of cocaine, and that was a past life.
There should not be prison without reentry service, just period.
You're listening to The Combine with former sports TV broadcaster Damon Darensburg, sports gurus Terrence Davis and Will Bryant, and former NFL defensive tackle Marlon Big Bay Favorite. The Combine is a BAMM network production.
Welcome back to the Combine. When we left, we finished up on high school football. We got some big, exciting matchups coming up this week, but also we're in October. So what we got to talk about other than the Fall Classic, the World Series. Game 7 is going on right now. Got my iPad up. Couldn't be far away from it. We almost canceled the show because of Game 7 tonight. But the game's going on. Houston's up 1-0 in the bottom of the third. But the thing that I love and what we talked about beforehand was it's a Game 7. There's nothing better than Game 7. They say it's the most exciting 2 words in sports, Game 7. What does Game 7 mean to you, Coach T?
Game 7 means that throw caution to the wind. In baseball, Game 7 means pitch everybody.
Everybody.
I don't care. Everybody can come get one. I don't care if you pitched last night. Yeah. I don't care if your arm sore. Yeah, you go pitch against the batter. You pitch against the batter. Game 7 means, hey, you throw out all the analytics. You throw everything out.
Everything.
You do whatever you need to do to get it done.
To get it done. That's in the baseball sense of it. That's what they were saying earlier. I mean, you got Max Scherzer, Garrett Cole. That's 2 aces, 2 studs. And folks are like, yeah, they might not pitch past the third inning. I'm like, wait a minute, no, that's 2 horses right there. Nah, all hands on deck.
All hands on deck. You know what I mean? At this point, I might even, as a manager, line it up, hey, everybody pitch against the batter. Everybody, you get one batter.
Coach T said, I don't care what you've done during the season. This is going to Game 6. It's Game 7, baby. I got to win this. So that's interesting. So the thing I also love about Game 7 is when we talk about the greats of all time and when you find out your work, that's where you determine Game 7, when it's all on the line. Michael Jordan never had a Game 7 in the finals. He never did. Always got to a Game 6, never got to a Game 7. But in that Game 6, which is a clinching game, where he said his whole point was we ain't going to Game 7 because anything can happen in Game 7. You know how Game 7, anything can happen. I'm not going to Game 7. Right now where I got you. And I remember Kobe Bryant going to Game 7 with the Lakers against the Celtics, and Ron Artest had to make a shot to bail him out because he played horrible in the Game 7. Again, it's the make or break moment. That's where you find out your true greatness. That's what it means to me. Like, you got to put everything on, like you said, everything's on the table. But more importantly, I want to see what you're working with right now. And Game 7 to get it out.
This series has been very peculiar.
Yes.
This series, the visiting team has won.
Road teams won every game.
Every game.
Every game. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's truly amazing. I don't think you've ever seen that before.
So the Nationals, I thought they had them. Then they go to DC. Yeah. They lose 3 straight.
3 in a row.
And so I'm figuring, okay, at this point the Astros gonna stick a fork in. They get back to Houston,
blow it
and then they win.
Exactly. So tonight we don't know what's gonna happen, and that's why Vegas keeps building buildings because somebody's gonna bet on something. But it's been a fun and entertaining series to watch, without a doubt. But the component of the Game 7, the element of Game 7 is something that I cherish as a sports fan. I don't care who wins, but last night I wanted Washington to win just so I can get Game 7. I didn't care. I watch a hockey Game 7. I don't care. If it's a Game 7, I'm in.
And I'll say this, I'm an Astros supporter because of proximity to Houston.
That's fine.
But because of the Cinderella nature of the Nationals season. You know, they started off as a team that was real rocky.
Lost
so
price
no
on
one
money.
Expected them to be in the World Series. And because, like I said, because of that, if they were to win, I couldn't be upset.
Fair enough. So you lose Bryce Harper, doesn't resign, goes to Philly for $300 kajillion or whatever. Then you still win. You start off 19-31, and then they still make it to this point, which in baseball is not as surprising. I mean, they have really good pitching. That can take you a long way. So to watch that story, you're absolutely right. That's great. The flip side of it to me is Houston. They were tanking basically 4 or 5 years ago. They started and they said, we're going to tear this thing down and rebuild it. And they did it through the draft and with a couple of free agent signings, but those guys are all homegrown. George Springer, Bregman, those guys, Altuve, that's homegrown talent that they brought up. So they did it that way, as opposed to the Yankees or the Boston way, saying we're going to throw as much money as we can to the problem. They did it that way. So 2 different Cinderella stories. The Astros, of course, won a title a couple of years ago, so they've already got that one out the way. But you're right. I like where you're going with that. All right, today we're at Halloween Eve. So tomorrow's Halloween. So in keeping with the theme of it, me and the big fella, we're not putting on costumes or anything like that, so you don't have to worry about that in your neighborhood. But one thing I wanted to ask you, big fella, scary movies. Give me your tops. Do you have a top scary movie? Something, and you can go back as far as you want to go back, or as recent as you want to be. Give me a scary movie.
I'll tell you, from my childhood, I remember the movie Carrie.
Man, boy.
Oh, and I'm going to tell you because, with the Freddy Krueger and all these different, these monsters, it's different. But Carrie was just a girl. A regular girl who just,
clicked out.
And so I think the reality of
that
the
could
Carrie
really happened.
Yeah, the reality of Carrie, I think is something that always stuck with me. A lot of the other movies with
man, we didn't compare notes or anything, but you stole mine. But I got Carrie was my number one, and Amityville Horror was my number two. And I saw both of those at the Famous Theater. So I grew up on Marigny, 2 blocks from the Famous, Famous. So I used to walk down there with my sister all the time, a little dollar movie. And I'm talking about Carrie had me. I'm not going to prom. It's crazy. I'll never have to go to prom. I'm perfectly fine never going to prom.
Carrie made people nice. If you watch Carrie, like, you know what? If you cutting up with somebody, you probably say, you know what? I want to treat you a little bit better. Right now, I apologize.
Carrie had me say, man, I'm not going to prom ever in my life. Y'all can have that. Okay, Halloween candy. Give me your go-tos. What's your favorite Halloween candy?
So, during Halloween time, back in the days, there was these little candies that were wrapped in orange or black paper. It was almost like a chewy coconut type candy that only came out during Halloween time. And I used to look for those,
That was the deal.
All other candy you could
get anytime.
And I actually used to like the little caramel with the little corn.
You better not say candy corn.
I like candy corn.
All right, go ahead.
I had no problem with it. And I think I liked them because this was something that you only got at that particular time.
There's a reason.
All other candy.
There's a reason. It was garbage. That's why you only got. Man,
I like
can't
the
believe
candy corn. Candy corns were all right with me.
Coach T, you were my dude, but we just lost control of the show right there with that. Candy
matter
corn
of fact,
is the worst
all the children,
ever.
All the children. If you get the candy corn, hey, you can send them to Coach T. I like the candy corn.
There's nothing more to say for that, folks. It's been another episode of The Combine. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys again next week on BAMA Communications, part of the TalkThatNOLA.com network.
You're listening to The Combine with former sports TV broadcaster Damon Darensburg, sports gurus Terrence Davis and Will Bryant, and former NFL defensive tackle Marlon Big Bay Favorite. The Combine is a BAMM network production.